You can write anything that's true. I could take word for word from Psalm 23 and just sing a melody to it. What I'm trying to grow in is original church congregational worship songs that are compelling, that are true, that are drawing people into a better understanding of who God is and allowing people to experience him and his power, his presence. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we sing it on a Sunday together. Opening line of a song is the same as like the opening line to your book. It's like you want to capture someone's, I've never heard it said like that before, or I've never said that before. But you don't want to get too far away from the truth that you're beginning to say things to Jesus or God that you wouldn't actually say in prayer. The purpose behind the song is God's glory. That's it. If it is anything other than that, the Lord will know. He'll smell it, he'll see it, and he'll bless it accordingly.
Hey everyone, you're about to listen to a conversation with Josh Seller, who is my friend and worship leader at my church. When we originally recorded this episode, we had some technical difficulties, and I wanted to be sure to reintroduce him to you now. Like I said, Joshua Seller is a worship leader, songwriter, and director of worship at Christ Church in Mesa, Arizona. Originally from Brigden, Ontario, Canada, Joshua built his foundation in full-time vocational ministry at Harvest Bible Chapel, where his songwriting and leadership began gaining national attention. In 2002, he finished in the top 10 on Canadian Idol and later opened for Casting Crowns on their 2009 Canadian tour and received the Covenant Award of Scriptural Song of the Year. Joshua has since collaborated with Christ Church Worship and Vintage Worship, contributing to the songs Your Grace, The Praise Is Yours, and This Is the Day. Today, he leads with one driving conviction to lead people into the weight and richness of God's presence through biblically grounded songs the church can sing together. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation with my friend Josh, so let's welcome him to the Writers Bloc podcast.
Thanks, Cara. This is awesome. This is, I think, my second ever official live recorded podcast. So there's an opportunity within any group like this to just even consider with words, how could they shape, form, mold, and disciple even through songwriting? Long before I considered myself a writer, I just would sit down and write songs and just say, Lord, what does it say in here? And then how do I put it to something that sounds more accessible for people to put to a melody and lyric and stuff? So I've been doing that since I was, I think, a freshman in high school. It's just been sweet just to see how the Lord has been able to teach me more of who he is through his character and through his word, through singing and through songwriting. So
Yeah, I love that. I'm really interested to hear from you. And I've heard this has been folklore in the halls of Christ Church for a long time, that you were on the top 10 of Canadian Idol way back in 2002. I know it's not just a rumor, it's truth. So can you tell us a little bit about what that was like? And I think that was kind of at the beginning of your songwriting and your musical career. So I'm interested to hear more.
yeah, I find it very funny to talk about this just because it's so different than my passions today, even though it's still in the same vein as music. Why my heart wanted to sign up for to be an artist as a public singer, and now why I love to sing and worship the Lord is so vastly different. I wouldn't even say, Cara, I was a Christian yet. I grew up in the church. I knew the gospel. I had even led worship prior to Canadian Idol in internships or through college, and nothing like where I was vocational full-time, worked for a church, but I had cut my teeth a few different times leading worship, and just continue to kind of have one foot in, one foot out. And the Lord never really allows that to last for very long. And so I found myself back up in Canada. I was bartending in the evening.
Oh, wow.
And I was working selling TVs during the day. And one of the guys that I worked with in the evening said, "Hey, there's this TV show coming to Toronto. Would you like to give me a ride? I don't have a car." And I was like, "Sure. $20 and I'll give you a ride to Toronto," or whatever it was. And so I went with him, stood with him in line, did the whole process. He didn't end up making it past the first round. I ended up moving on and then on and then on. And the whole time it's happening, like literally, I am from a town of 500 people. I am literally Brigden, Ontario. If you were to look it up, it's like 505 people.
Wow.
Nothing exciting, nothing fancy, just very small. And so all of what was Canadian Idol back then just felt so big and so opportunistic for me. And so I was really praying that that was my ship and that it was going to leave the harbor and never come back. And it was just going to be a sweet time. But I learned a lot about quickly how fame, money, the things that the world says is what we're all going after. I mean, you taste that and you see that and you're like, this is it. Like a songwriter friend who has seen a lot of success has been like, I've been to the top of the mountain and I walk down with a Slurpee. He's like,
Mm.
we're all chasing this thing at the top of the mountain, this goal. He's like, I've been there. And there's a 7-Eleven up there and I got a Slurpee and I came back down. And I was
Like
just
it's
like,
no big
"What?"
deal.
No, like, I was just like, "What a great way to put it, though, of
Yeah.
just like, what does this world have to offer compared to Jesus in the gospel?" And for me, that was just massive because I tried and tried and tried, and Canadian Idol is a great thing to get you kind of up and running. But then as the seasons kind of continue to progress, you don't really see a lot of artists that continue to pursue music outside of the top 10. And so God's just continued to give me a platform through ministry as a means to serve him and his church, not me and my desires. He's given me a gift and I love to use it for him. But he had to teach me a lot through the Canadian Idol experience. And then even after I got saved in India, because of Canadian Idol, everybody on Canadian Idol was trying to stay in the spotlight as long as they possibly could. That was just like the goal. And the tsunami hit in Sri Lanka back, I think, in 2003 or 2004. And at the time, my manager was like, this would be a great PR stunt. It would be given an opportunity to go and just kind of serve globally. And I didn't realize when I got there that the Lord had something else in store. And I don't know if you have time for this, but the very last day of this 30-day trip we went on, Cara, I found myself at a leper colony, like an actual
Wow.
leper colony that you would read about in the Bible.
Yeah.
And in India, leprosy is a treatable, curable disease, but because of the way the culture views it, it's considered unclean, and so they build these like complete uh, 12-foot wall high clay worlds within the city. And if you have leprosy, that is where you go and you live, and you stay there until you die. And we got to go visit one of those. And on the very last day we were there, at the very last house in the little kind of half circle that was there, this old man, I don't remember his name. I just remember he was the oldest person that was at this place that had leprosy. And he looked like that little Christian speaker who doesn't have any arms or legs. It
Yeah.
was just his torso and his face. And he had a big
Wow.
black beard, a little red thing, I remember. And one of the ladies that was on the trip said, Josh, why don't you sing to him? And I was like, okay, like just kind of being funny.
Mm,
And so I picked him up, and you're not supposed to touch them.
mm,
And I'm okay with breaking rules, evidently, because I picked him up and I held him in my arms like you'd hold like a baby. And I just sang Jesus Loves Me to him. And I had not sung that song prior to my mom singing it to me when I was a kid. And the Lord was like, that's you. You have no arms, no legs, no future, no hope
mm.
without me. And you're going nowhere. And so the gospel made sense for the first time right there. I had heard it 1,000 times, but I was like, oh, that's why I need it, because I'm like
Mm.
him. I don't have that. And so the Lord just impressed upon my heart. I came back home. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my fiance, my wife, Erin, I was like, hey, you're probably going to want to break up with me. I'm pursuing Jesus. I want to give my life to him. She's like, I've been praying for that for you. And so that literally led me into, how do I write songs for you, Lord? How do I use my gifts for you, Lord? How do I give my life and serve you? And that's been really just through vocational ministry for the last 20 something years.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. I love hearing that. So when you were singing to him, why did you pick Jesus Loves Me?
That I still ask to this day. I have no idea. It's just a song that came to mind. Picture you're standing in a big open, like gross, desolate place, and everyone's kind of laughing nervously. And had about 20 people in our group, and there was probably another 15 or 20 other guides and people with us. So it's a large group. And when a grown man picks up another grown man in a different country who's considered unclean, that's already really like uneasy for the people that were there. So I just remember like there was laughter and there was nervousness. And Debbie, who was the mom, she said, Josh, why don't you just sing them? And that's literally the song, Cara, that came to my mind. I could have sang a million other things, but Jesus Loves Me was like the only thing that came out of my mouth at the time.
Hmm. Wow, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So you came home from that tour and God was calling you into ministry. And so tell us a little bit about what that's looked like for you, especially when it relates to like, were you a songwriter before that time? And how did that skill develop in you? Because that is like, even as those of us who are on this call and who will watch the replay later, a lot of us are writing, we're doing nonfiction and fiction writing, but songwriting is like feels like a different category altogether. So I'm curious, like, how did that develop in you?
So I've always been a creative. I've always been kind of drawn to just a guitar. I have a limited vocabulary. I tell people all the time, I'm a songwriter with a limited vocabulary, which is kind of like the worst. I don't
Well,
love big
you have
words.
the main ones down, I'm sure.
Yeah. But within Christian songwriting, I didn't always start writing worship songs. It was just kind of like Christian songs that didn't feel dark, but also didn't have like a very like this song is about Jesus. And then as I continued to write, God just kind of said, I'm going to give you an opportunity to write songs for me that are about me, and I'm going to allow those songs to be put in people's mouths to sing back to me. And my prayer has always been, uh, I read this book back when I was like in my 20s, and someone had said that they had prayed a prayer of like, God, make me a psalmist for my generation. And I was like, what a beautiful thought. Like David, like for this generation, Lord, could I just add to your voice in a means of not adding to your word, not adding to the truth, just adding to the creativity of what you have said in your word with new song and new melody. And it's been sweet. So how do you craft? I mean, I've never been to a songwriting class. I've never been to a songwriting school. I don't even know still to this day if I'm doing it right. I just I just pick up a guitar and I just kind of close my eyes and just kind of begin to find like a pattern. And within a book, I mean, you Cara, you don't have syncopation, you don't have melody, you don't have any confinements except for a publisher saying it's too long. But you within songwriting, you have to match it to a certain cadence. It has to rhyme. It can't feel cheesy. It has to be melodically acceptable or accessible for people to be able to sing along. And it has to say something that people want to say back to God.
Yeah.
Um, you can write anything that's true. I could take word for word from Psalm 23 and just sing a melody to it. That's not as the songwriting sense that I'm trying to uh, grow in. And what I'm trying to grow in is original church congregational worship songs that are compelling, that are true, that are drawing people into a better understanding of who God is and allowing people to experience Him and His power, His presence. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we sing it on a Sunday together. But music that moves people and teaches them who Jesus is why I want to continue to write songs. And so, as a songwriter, if you think you can do that apart from the Word of God, man, that's dangerous. So I always say that the words have been written for me. God's
Yeah.
word is all I need. And so I can just take what he has already said. There's all these different variations and different translations that you can look at and say, okay, I like how Eugene Peterson said it with the Message, or I love how that word is used in the NIV. But a lot of times it just comes from a place, Cara, of you're just like, God, what are you doing in my life? And how can I say thank you for that?
Hmm.
It's never been, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write 15 songs and I'm going to release this record. And it's always just been, wow, I've got 15 songs. I got 50 songs. Maybe we should do something with them. Um, and so I've just found songwriting to be just part of my walk with Jesus. It's just like, how do I know he's there? How do I know he's real? I sense him. I know him. I feel him when I'm writing. I ask him to be a part of that with me so that the words I put down on paper or on my phone, that he would be the one to blow the wind in the sails and that they would just be used by him. And so we've seen that. I'm at a little church in Phoenix, our church together, Cara, but um, I've heard already just the songs that we've written are being sung all over. I'm not trying to embellish that in the sense of like, it's a big deal, but there's dozens of churches across the world that sing the songs that we've written here at Christ Church, and it's just been super sweet to be a part of.
Yeah, I love how you were just sharing earlier about your Canadian Idol experience, which I think is like so much about like remaining in the spotlight and, producing content perhaps. But that now it's more like this is just all an overflow of your heart, a form of worship to the Lord, and then it becomes like this co-creative process, don't you think? Where it's like you're working with the Lord, like you're kind of submitting before him, you're offering up your ideas and your thoughts, and then there's this creative thing that kinda takes place between you and the Lord, which I have found in my own work, like, that's just such a sweet place to be, and, yeah, I love what you were saying there. So, when you are writing a song, so I'm just curious about some of the nuts and bolts of it. Do you start with a melody first, or are you starting with, like, your Psalm 23 example where it's like, "Okay, there's something new here and fresh in my heart, and I want to express it, and so therefore I'm coming, and now I have to create the melody." I'm just wondering what comes first,
Yeah, that's good.
the melody
Um,
or the words?
I would say I I don't give Pastor Adam, enough credit, but he helps co-write a lot of my songs because a lot of the inspiration ideas come from what we're learning as a church in through the sermons. And so I have a notepad and a book just and I sit in every service with my family every Sunday and I just take notes and I write down ideas. And sometimes I'll come up with an idea or a melody. But how it starts is very spiritual, if you will, in the sense of I might be like walking down the street and I might be like, there is a love, I know I need it. I don't know. And I'll just sing like an idea into my phone and I'll hit save. And then I might not even come back to it for like 2 weeks. I totally forgot that I did it. I literally have like hundreds of
A
these.
lot. Yeah.
These are all, and this is just this year. Like,
Wow.
and I'll just sit down at a piano. Usually I write 90% of my music from a piano, even though I lead worship 90% of the time from an acoustic guitar. I'll just sit there and I'll just kind of hum through or sing through an idea. And then co-writing, which you don't see a lot often in books, but like in church world, Cara, this is a huge thing. So picture I'm a songwriter and you're a songwriter and you're like, hey, Josh, I want to get together. I want to write a song for my church. Great. So you and I would schedule like a 3 hour little session where we would sit in a room together or like this on Zoom and we'd start and we'd write a song. And you'd say, hey, this is what God's been teaching me in my life, or this is what he's showing me. I'd be like, I feel kind of the same thing. Like there could be something there. And then we literally just start to write from beginning to end um, the song together. Whereas like books, you don't really see that. But in
Yeah.
songwriting world, it's all over the place. Multiple writers on multiple songs. I think that has a lot to do. It helps me finish a song because I have a million started and 100 finished, and so that's difficult, a lot of times. But the process in which writing happens sometimes could take 10 minutes. I have a song called "The Cure," which I wrote on the back of a Southwest napkin, headed to Nashville in, like, 10 minutes. I wrote the entire song. I didn't have a piano, I didn't have a guitar. I had my phone and my pen, and I was sitting there next to some sweet couple on the plane, and, I did the whole song before I landed, and I was just so excited to have that. There's other songs they've literally taken years to write, years and years. We're still not there yet on the bridge or the chorus.
Wow.
But the structure is a verse. You want to help kind of connect the dots for people to say, what's the subject? What am I going after? An opening line of a song is the same as like the opening line to your book. It's like you want to capture someone's, I've never heard it said like that before, or I've never said that before. But you don't want to get too far away from the truth that you're beginning to say things to Jesus or God that you wouldn't actually say in prayer. So like we can't fit the word propitiation all the time in a
That's a big
worship
one.
song,
Yeah.
but I can say how God took upon himself the wrath that I deserve. And it's
Right.
just saying, how do I take the truth and just say it in a different way? So the verses kind of point to the subject and building to this like release of the chorus where the chorus of the song, like all of us, it's the most catchy part of the song. It's the thing that you just want to keep singing over and over again. And if you can't come up with a chorus that A feels sticky enough for people to want to sing over and over again, there's also in that the chorus might be too high melodically. It could feel just too jumbled, so it's really hard to kind of get the words out of your mouth even after you've learned them. And it gives the opportunity for people to know and express to the Lord who He is, what He's done, by the time you get to the chorus, so that when you get to the bridge of the song, it's really like 3 parts. The bridge of the song is to help elevate the chorus even more. Just hit that truth in a new and fresh way. So that's like the template, if you would, for
Yeah.
songwriting. Verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse 2, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge. Sometimes we don't do a pre-chorus, but and usually try to fit it in under 4 minutes. So
Yeah, that's a lot.
it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I loved earlier what you were saying about, working with I'm gonna mute you for a sec. Working with other writers and the synergy that you feel with that. In a way, I'm kinda jealous of that because I feel like that sounds like a lot of fun, and I think as writers, we're so used to being siloed away, and I think that must be really fun to work with people and to get different angles on things. I think those are some of the things that as writers, we're always, like, really self-conscious about as, like, we're writing and in our heads, right, all the time, like, "Does this make sense?"
Yeah. I mean, I know that am not the best lyricist when you get in a room with other writers. I'm more of a melody and hook kinda guy. I can kinda hear the music, and then if I get with someone who's really kind of dialed in, lyrically, then it's helpful to move the song along, but I would recommend any of your watchers and listeners go to Nashville, find up any publishing company, any one of them, and say, "Hey, I'm coming to Nashville for a day or 2. I'd like to book a songwriter's, a songwrite." The publisher's job is to take all the hundreds of writers that they have with their publishing, label, and then get them writing with other writers. I did that for my very first time about 25 years ago. I flew to Nashville for the first time, didn't know anybody, and in one day, I wrote 3 songs with 3 different writers that were all really talented. Carl Carty, uh, Matt Armstrong at the time. I can't remember the last guy, but these dudes, they write songs for a living. This is all they ever done. And so it was good for me just to kind of be like, okay, this is how it's done. This is how they do it. So I didn't go to a songwriting school or a songwriting class, but I put myself out there when I went to Nashville to write with people better than me to
Mm.
learn how to do it in a way that would gain the most exposure.
Yeah, that's so good because then you kinda see how it's done and you can Hey, that's probably better than going to any school or class anyway. Like that's on the job
Oh,
learning.
you probably pay 15, 20,000 a year just to learn how to write songs where you could go there for free in Nashville and just be like, "Hey, let's sit down and write together. Let's see what the Lord does." And some of the best songs that the church has ever sung have come from that. I can't recall one song in the last 10 years that was written by one person. It seems like the Lord has used the unity of writers to move what he wants to do in and through music down the field in his church. It's not like one guy, right? Where it's like, man, look, Josh wrote another one. It's Josh wrote it with this guy and this guy out there and this church out there. And look at how sweet the king. And that's just a beautiful picture of the kingdom of God represented through songwriting specifically, because we're all bringing a different story from a different place. And there's people that I have been in a writer's room with that I would never, ever, for any reason, ever be in a room with them unless it was just to write a song. And God has just kind of opened up doors like that to be able to do that. And it's been super cool.
That's really neat. Do you feel like in terms of like the skill of writing and songwriting, I mean, were you ever interested in poetry? Was that something that you were drawn to? I mean, I know you've done some, pen to paper writing yourself, but do you feel like there are some like lanes of writing that are more apt to like helping you become a better songwriter?
Yeah. So to answer your question, I think I've just loved the art of expression more. I found songwriting as a door to get to Jesus. Like, it was just the thing that I knew, like, I could sit in a room with a guitar and or a piano, and 2 hours would pass, and I would be like, "Wow, like, where did time go?" And there's a lot of times, especially when I'm just worshiping by myself at home, not writing a song, where I'll be moved to tears, I'll cry, I'll sit there, I'll just be like, "Man, God, you've been so patient with me, I'm sorry I've been, like, still dealing with the same things or saying the same things," and he's been so kind to open up my eyes to who he is through songwriting. And so, like, can you ask the original question one more time? Because I got off tangent, but I wanted to
Oh
come
no,
back to, I know
it's
part
all
of it, but
right.
I want to hear
No,
the
I
other part.
first of all, I love what you just said because I think that that is so true that like it's just an overflow of worship, not necessarily like we can't always just hone all the skills, but I'm curious as to, like, what are the skills that kind of help people? Like,
Yeah,
clearly, the Lord has gifted
got
you,
it.
but, like, if
You
you
have to
were
have a
to
story to
train
tell.
someone, how would you go about doing that?
Yeah, I would say get with Jesus, get with him in the word, in as much understanding of who he is. If you want to write songs about Jesus, you need to know who Jesus is. If you want to write songs for his church, you need to understand what God believes his church is, who she is, how beautiful she is, how much he loves her, that he would die for her. And then you have to write songs that do not ever contradict to what the method or the messages of this book. God's word is the thing that we just want to say it not better. We just want to say it different in shorter syllables with more rhymes to be able to give people the ability to remember the truth. Like, the sad thing is like no one's going to their car after church on a Sunday and remembering the second point to the sermon, right? Like, they just, unless you're really smart, you're probably not.
Yeah.
But everyone is going to their car either humming the last song we just sang or singing something that they had sung that morning. And I just see that as like, what an opportunity, Lord, to steward that gift of responsibility to say, you're going to use these songs that we're singing on Sunday as a means to grow people's faith. So, from a songwriter's perspective, how much more serious do I need to take that rather than just saying, what rhymes with grace? I want to say, what has grace done in my life? And what do I want people to know that it's done so that they too can experience that and express that back to the Lord? It's easy to, I mean, if the two of us wanted to write a song within the next hour, we could do that, but it probably wouldn't have a whole lot of weight to it. And I think, like, as you mentioned in the beginning, like, my conviction is weight. I want weight in our worship. because I believe when we approach a holy God, when we approach a throne, when we know that because of what Christ has done, we have access to that throne. And for me, I'm just like, what a gift to sing, to be discipled through music to the Lord. So that's kind of at least my headspace of just how I've approached songwriting, how I'm convicted by it. I don't love it because I love music. I love it because it's just been my way to express what God's done in and through my
Yeah,
life.
I love that. Do you like you mentioned a little bit earlier just about how like some of your songs are traveling, right? They're moving beyond the four walls of Christ Church, being sung around the country. They're on YouTube, they're on Spotify and all the places. Do you how have you dealt with that? Like I think obviously it's clear like songwriting and worshiping Jesus is just an overflow of your heart, and yet we can get that tangled up with worldly success. And then, like, I'm also thinking too, like, remaining true like, sometimes I'm sure there might be a temptation to write a song because you know this has got a good beat, this is catchy, this is gonna stick in people's minds versus, like, this is, like, a truth, a hardcore gospel truth I want people to leave with. And, like, I don't know, is that something you've ever wrestled with? Do you feel like that struggle?
Yeah, I think I tell people that the blessing of Canadian Idol was that I tasted a lot of fame and a lot of opportunity in my early 20s. And I
Mm,
realized pretty quickly that I didn't want it. And
mm,
so the shiny kind of carrot that kind of like dangles in front of us that makes us kind of think that I should do this or pursue years of this. God's just, I mean, I just care. I could tell you, I could care less. I could care less if anybody knows who I am, if anybody knows my name. I'm not pursuing any monetary value in songwriting. I literally just love Jesus. I love his church. I get to work at a church full time. And part of my job is to write, is to write content, is to write songs for our church and for the church. And so, tell you one story. I was in a room with a guy named Matt Redman, and Matt Redman is a British international songwriter. He wrote the song "Blessed Be Your Name." One day, he's been everywhere, all over, and he lives in Newport. And we had a mutual connection. And when we moved to Phoenix, we were like, "Oh man, maybe the two of us could get in a room and write together." And brought in some guests, and we're sitting in the green room at our Gilbert campus backstage area, and it's me, Andy Rozier, Matt Redman, Travis Ryan, and in walks Adam Bailey. And we're just sitting there writing, and I'm just like looking at Adam, and he's looking at me, and I'm just like, I don't know how this happened, but this is pretty sweet. And we wrote a song in that very same session called "The Praise Is Yours." And I'll get videos kind of sent to me once in a while from churches that are leading those songs or leading songs in church. And um, I got this song sent to me from Matt from the Philippines. It was this massive, like 10,000 person young adult church in the Philippines. And they were singing "The Praise Is Yours."
mm.
And I just like watched it. I showed the kids, I showed my wife, and I'm just like, isn't that cool? Like, and they're like, Dad, why aren't you blown away by that? And I'm just like, I am blown away by the fact that, um, we wrote that together, but, like, I don't consider myself any more special
Yeah.
because of how far it got. The the purpose behind the song is God's glory. That's it. If it is anything other than that, the Lord will know. He'll smell it, he'll see it, and he'll bless it accordingly. So if I'm writing songs for an all-knowing, all-sufficient, uh, much wiser God than I, then I have to believe that if it's written from a place of just truly wanting to honor him because he's my God and Savior, he'll do the rest. And he has.
Yeah.
I've never gone a day without. I'm definitely not the most popular in the world of songwriting, but I just love doing it. And I love how God's blessing it and continuing just to disciple our church through it.
Yeah. Well, I think God is clearly doing that and blessing the work that you're doing because I once had a friend tell me, you know, don't touch the glory, like just don't even touch it. And I think that that's, you know, I think when we don't touch the glory, when we reflect it back to him, then like he gets more of it, and we can just be a part of it, and it feels good to be a part of it, right? Like it feels good to be used in that way and use your spiritual
Well,
gifts.
that's when you realize, I mean, this is so not on the topic of songwriting, and I'm sorry, but like when you realize how awful of a sinner you are, like when you really just are like, whoa, sorry, my chair just went up. When you
It's
realize
the
that
Lord
was the Lord, he
agreeing
was
or
like, I
something, I don't
agree.
know.
But when you just see yourself for who you truly are, and I'm not saying like you're just beating yourself and having this like false identity, but like when you're like, God, you are awesome. You are holy. You are above all things and you have everything in your control. When you position yourself under that authority, your desire to create anything that has his name on it or is for him, like you said, it's for his glory and glory alone. We can't steal his glory. He won't share it with anyone.
Right.
So, yes, we ain't touching it, but that's also because he won't allow us to. It's for him and him alone. And so that's the beauty of songwriting, about Christian authorship, of all of that is like you can say things that are true about God and he will use those things from your life, from your experiences to glorify himself in and through the thing that you've put your hand or your mind to.
Well, that makes me think of a kind of subsequent question to that, because I think that's the appropriate posture to have. But I mean, you're going out in front of very large rooms with lots and lots of people, and it is obviously for God and for his glory. But what sort of like, and maybe you're no longer nervous. I mean, you do it so much and so often. Maybe you're no longer nervous, but is there a sense of self-awareness of like, I don't want to mess up, or I just missed that. I just messed that up, or like
Yeah,
my
that's
zipper's
the
down. I don't know.
there's 10,000 things that are happening all in your mind at the same time as singing the one word at the right moment in a service. Um, as a young worship leader, not as a songwriter, but as a performer, as a worship leader, I would get so distracted by that because you know who you are, you know the week you've had, you know the struggles you've faced, you know how, you know, you've just been mediocre at best and relying on the grace of God. And then you get to a Sunday and you're standing up in front of thousands of people and you're like, everyone's kind of singing, like, not at you, but they're singing over you. And you're just like,
Mhm.
who am I that I get to
Yeah.
have this seat on the bus? Um, and yet that's grace. That is grace. We don't earn it. We don't deserve it. There's nothing we could do to get it. The Lord, that's his kindness. He just pours it out on his people.
Mm.
So that's the thing that's like the fuel to the fire is just like, wow, Lord, if you've done this much with a life that really hasn't done a whole lot in comparison to what you've done for me, if you've done with my life already those things, then what else could you do? And so I've just been
Yeah.
praying for more, just praying that God would keep me humble, because it's easy to say. I mean, it really is. I could sit here and tell you all of the right answers, Cara. I've been a Christian long enough to know, but I will tell you that it's convictional for me to say that, like, I know who my Jesus is. I know what he's done. I know who I am. I know my need for him. I know my
Mm.
desperation for him. I know when I stray from him for even a half a day, how quickly my heart and my mind says something's off. And so, whatever I can do to bring God glory is literally what I want to do. And
Yeah.
that's not some sales pitch. That's literally all he's put in me is just a desire for him, a desire for his church, a desire for his people. Do I do I get prideful? Yes. Do I get caught up on things that don't matter? 100%. Do I still walk off stage and go, I could have hit that note better or sang that line better or said this thing different? Yes. But those are not the primary purposes of what I'm going after. And that, like you said, is just bringing God glory for my little life.
Yeah, I love that. Well, this has been such a fun conversation. I just want to give the ladies who are on this call an opportunity to ask you questions too. I'm going to add them to the stage here.
Well, I love your heart posture toward the whole thing, and I think that's a great reminder for us, whether we're writing just words or words and music together. I mean, as creatives in general, I love that posture. Um, From a nuts and bolts standpoint, I had a brief season of my life where I did some songwriting. And one of the things that I find interesting is a parallel between songwriting and maybe more fiction writing, but maybe it works for nonfiction also, is, like you talked about, okay, songs have a format, the verses kind of tell the story, and then the chorus, kind of expresses the main idea, and the bridge goes here. So there's like the nuts and bolts of how it works. And the same thing with fiction writing, well, we want a hook and we want to establish the setting, and then there has to be the climax. Like there's the formal way of looking at it. And then there's this side of it where in music, if you listen to enough good songs, you know intuitively what it's supposed to sound like and what it should look like. And in fiction, if you read enough good stories, you kind of know intuitively what a good story is. And so how do you find the blending of those things from the technical, okay, I need a one chord here and then I need a minor three, and like with it just instinctual, intuitive, I've listened to enough good songs, I know what this should be like. How do you blend
Yeah,
those?
that's a great question. I think church music in specifically, because I call myself a songwriter, but I'm writing for an audience, which is the church, to gather people on a Sunday morning. When you are writing specifically for them, the nuts and bolts comes down to there's not a ton of songs that are in the minor keys anymore, like where it's just G minor only. Most music in the church is in a major chord progression, and there's only so many chord progressions that have so many different ways that they'll make you feel. So if I'm in the key of C and I'm just C major, G, A minor, F, like I just know that with those four chords, I could create a melody probably for a verse and a chorus. And so sometimes I'm actually not even worrying about the music, because the content is what is to live above that. It's very easy to write a beautiful musical song with light, kind of fluffy lyrics, but it doesn't really have anything to say. And so some of the most beautiful hymns of the church have these weighted words that match perfectly with the melody of the way the song is. When you sing Holy, 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 if you grew up in the church, that song is so reverent. And the way that the melody is holy, it's almost like this hush over the people. The coupling of that with the lyric make that song beautiful. Similar to writing, like if you are writing to move someone to do something or make a decision, but you're not very compelling, or you're not even very believable in the way that you are asking them to do something, chances of your success are pretty few. But if you can say, listen, God has done this, or I need you, reader, to completely understand right now that what I am telling you has this direct benefit, or has this direct result, or will promise these changes in your life. And here is why, because I've seen it in my own. I've seen it in my marriage. I've seen it in the way I parent. I've seen it in my job. If you can add to that personal, convictional, experiential components, there is an emotional connection to you and your reader, or you and your listener, to go, I need to hear that again. I need to be reminded of that again. That's true for my heart. And so songwriting, Amy, to answer your question, is fishing. Yeah, Chris Martin from Coldplay. Y'all know the band Coldplay?
Yeah.
He's written so many. He said, songwriting is like fishing. You can go sit at the exact same dock every single day with the exact same lure and the exact same bait. And one day you catch the biggest salmon that's in the lake, and the next day go home with nothing. And it's not so much for me, the songwriting has been like, I can't look back over my life and go, I've spent 40,000 hours of songwriting. But I can look back over my life and say, I've spent so many hours with the Lord. And as a result of that, here are all of the songs that have been produced from that. Here's all the journal entries that have been produced from that. Here's all the blog posts that have been produced from that. The blog post, the song, journal entry is not the purpose. The purpose is the time with the Lord. That's it. And as writers, I mean, we want to push, no, I'm a writer. I want to get real kind of into the weeds of like, how do I do this as a profession, as a craft? And I would say, again, that's secondary in the world of Christendom, because what Jesus wants is he wants the heart. and he wants to move. He always has. That's what he'll do. He will make more little Christians by having current Christians testify to what God does. And if you can do that and articulate that in a sweet way, you're just going to connect way more with your listeners or with your readers. And I've just seen that. And there's a lot of things that you write. I mean, I've written literally probably 5,000 songs, and maybe 10 of them you would ever hear or you would know, because it's a numbers game. How many words have you written for a book or from a journal, and then you went back and you edited it and you were like, that's too much, I need to take that out.
Yeah.
So less is more. Testify to what you know is true, and just make it believable so that people actually want to be reminded of that and be compelled and be compelling.
I think what you're saying too is so true just for writers in general. Like, think about the transformation that you're really after in your own work. Like, what is the journey you're taking people on in your writing? I mean, you're doing that in a 4-minute span of time in a song.
Yeah. And that's why, I mean, you could read something for 4 minutes and be not moved by it, and then read an entire book over in an afternoon, or a lady even be like, I couldn't put it down. I was just so, I've heard that. My wife, she's a speed reader, and she can read like a 400-page book in like a day. She would remember every detail of that book. She knows it all. She's just really good at that. Whereas with songwriting, I mean, you got to rely on the hook to kind of like get you, the musical hook. And then you got to hope that the lyrics are something that you want people to say back to the Lord. So, yeah.
I just wanted to say hello from Ontario. And I actually grew up going to church in Brigden, and my parents are still there. So I know your aunt.
Hold on. How did you know I was going to be on this call?
She's in my community.
Wow.
So,
Michelle, where did you go to school?
St. Clair.
Okay. LCCVI.
So yeah, my brother went to LCCVI because we moved to Wyoming when I was in high school. So I finished.
What's your last name? Will you tell me? Is that okay?
Yeah. Now it's Arthur, but it was Nagel growing up.
Nagel. Okay.
So I did a lot of music ministry around the county and that. And then now live a couple hours away. But yeah, just encouraged to hear how the Lord is using. And when I saw that you were going to, I said to Cara, like, oh, wait, I know who Josh Zeller is. But I didn't realize at first that you're her worship pastor or worship leader. And so that was really fun to see what a small world it is, and to hear how the Lord is using you within the church ministry.
Thank you. Michelle can testify, ladies. Brigden is a nowhere, nothing town. It's so little, so small. I remember that little white church.
That's the church. That's the one.
Yeah. Right across the street from my Aunt Deanna's house.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Wow.
Small world.
Man, well, thank you for saying hi and for being on here. It's incredible. Just like, yeah, like it's just cool just to meet some, because you know where I've come from. Mm-hmm. You know that world. Yeah. And, you know, everybody in Brigden, when you're growing up, like I didn't feel this as much growing up, but I don't know why anybody would stay in Brigden. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, what do you do there? There's nothing to do.
If you're farmers.
That's my grandfather, he was, and family that still live out there. But for me, I was always just kind of like, I want to go see the world. And that led me to Phoenix, Arizona, where we've been for the last 8 years. And I've never had to shovel snow for the last 8 years, Michelle. It's absolutely incredible.
For you.
Oh, wow. Well, it's so nice. Thanks for saying hi.
Mm-hmm.
So fun.
Cool. Did you have a question, or are you just jumping on because you just like Brigden?
No, I mean, I'm a songwriter as well. And
are you okay?
Recorded an album with my kids last year of kids scripture songs, and have a whole bunch more of those that we hope to be able to release in the future. And we're kind of in the process of just figuring out the distribution and how, if we're partnering with the ministry or if we're releasing that on our own. So, and then have also written congregational songs and have done some mentoring like with the Gettys and Brian Dirksen, and have a church that's singing some of those. So yeah, just love anytime I can hear about songwriting and learn from others. It's a fun opportunity.
That you said something that's super helpful, because in the songwriting world, similar to like if I was, I'm doing this with Cara right now. As last year, I wrote a book on worship, and I'd never written a book my whole life. I was just like, I'm not writing a book. But I started sitting down every night to work on this. It's called a field guide, which essentially like walks our worship team through what are the things we value as a church, what are we going after. And then like 70,000 words later, I got this book written that had zero plans to do anything with. So I've gone to Cara. I'm just like, now what do I do? Like, how do I, what are the next steps? And she's like, well, you need a book proposal and you need this, this, and this. I'm like, I never
Which he
intended to write
already
a book
had.
to begin with. But in the songwriting world for churches, yes, distribution is a big one. How do I get the music that I've written to the audience? Distributions like Amazon, it'll create a digital version of that to post somewhere. But even just the creating of the music. How do I record my vocals? How do I record drums, bass, electrics? Who's mixing it? Where is it going? All of those things play into the writer side for a songwriter that would be different than a book. Book, you're looking at like, who's doing my layout? Who's doing the cover art for it? All of those things. But within songwriting, you have that added component.
I think that's great that you've been on this call, Michelle. Were there any other like songwriting things that you wanted to talk about?
You were talking about even going down to Nashville and setting up those co-writes, and that's something that you were able to do. You said wasn't a cost for it, or do you kind of hire the songwriter, or how does that work?
Yeah, publishing companies want their songs released, want their songs cut, and it's a numbers game. So you've got Brentwood Benson, Integrity Music, Essential, Provident, Tim Music Publishing, a bunch of other smaller ones. And if you were to call any of those places up and just be like, hey, I'm a songwriter from Ontario. I'm going to be in Nashville on Thursday, Friday of this month. Do you have any writers that you could book with me at your publishing company? And literally, I just took an Uber to the publishing place. I walked in a room. It's like a school. They just got like all these writer rooms on this whole floor. And you walk in, there's a piano, there's a couch, there's a guitar, usually a microphone. And within 3 hours, you have a complete song written with a professional who does it every day of the week. And then that song is then submitted to his publisher, and it could go anywhere. So it's very easy to do that. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just a matter of the type of writer. As you get more, the more established you are as a writer, you get in rooms with other writers. Make sense? So you'll probably sit down if you go there, maybe with some like staff writers that they have. But maybe if you go back again, you might meet somebody and be like, hey, if I come back to Nashville. So it's all relationship. Nashville is the Home Depot of songwriting. You just go there to get what you need, and then you go home. It's just really it.
And do you have a team at your church that you are regularly writing with? You said that you're on staff, and part of your role is
Yeah. So in the last couple of years, my main two roles at Christ Church is I'm a worship director. I lead a ministry here at our main campus in Mesa. And then I write songs specifically for vintage worship. So if you were to go on Spotify and you were to look up vintage worship, those are all our songs that live there. That's kind of like our artist name or our publishing name that we would use. And we picked that because Vintage Mission is our church planning organization. And we just wanted something that would kind of match alongside that. We have a publishing distribution deal through a group called Wings Music. They're based out of the UK. They're fantastic. A lot of new churches are being are added to their roster. They're called Wings Music. Christian guys love them. They've been super sweet, where they take what you've done, you upload it to their server, and then they get it everywhere for you. CCLI, multi-tracks, all the places that music needs to get to that you wrote. And so they've been super helpful for small churches, big churches. They take a small commission from that for the co-write, but for what it is, they're fantastic. And we've never had an issue ever since we've signed up with them.
That's cool to hear about. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, I want to just, go ahead, Carrie. You're muted.
Yep, I just was unmuting. Do you do songwriting workshops for other like small churches with smaller teams for
Yeah. We've done we've done it two ways. We've done it biannual in Phoenix, where you would fly here and we'd spend a whole day writing with you. We'd set up all the rights, we'd set up all the food, we'd make sure it's all taken care of, and you'd just fly in and you would write with people on our team. We usually look to do about 16 people for a write like that, 4 groups of 4. And then there's been the other where I've had the opportunity to visit a church. Last church I did was in Austin, Texas. And we flew out to Austin and I spent 3 days. They had rented an Airbnb with their whole team, and we just spent all day, every day writing songs. And we had like 21 songs from those 3 days that we were able to write. They're recording a record with some of them right now. But the best songs have literally come, Carrie, from just relationships with people. There will be certain people over the years. I mean, I'm a 45-year-old man. I've been writing songs for 25 years or longer. There's people I want to write with, and there's people I don't want to write with. There's people I have good chemistry with, and there's people I just don't. There's people that run in my circles, and there's people that don't. And I'm not going to like chase the most famous songwriter of this era because I think somehow writing with that person is going to get me something that I don't already possess with the Spirit of God living inside of me. So the goal is just to build relationships, is just to make friends, is just to love one another. And the fruit and byproduct of that is songs. So, and it's a crazy community. I mean, it really is. It's thousands and thousands of creatives that are writing hundreds of songs every day in Nashville alone, just that you'll never hear. Kind of sad, but it's for the Lord. He hears them all.
Well, I won't be attending your workshops because I try to make a joyful noise, but I do need to send somebody to you. So Cara, let me know when it's happening so we can send Candy and Claire out there.
I will.
My first Carrie, when I was in Nashville, was a guy named Matt Armstrong, and Matt wrote the song called Love Ran Red, which was this huge song by Chris Tomlin, and the song that was performed at American Idol's final. And I remember he wrote it, and I was like, how does it go? Like, it goes like this, and he sat down, and he cannot sing. He can't sing. He's like, there's a place. Like, he's like, I'm like, you're a Nashville songwriter? This was the very first time I went, and I realized that like you don't actually have to be good at singing to write great songs. You just have to be able to communicate. And he's done that for years and years and years. I just texted him the other day and just kind of, I remember going into the second write that day and being like, have you ever written with this guy? Is his voice okay?
Things are
didn't hear
for
it.
all of us.
So you just kind of, so come one, come all, Carrie. You too can write a song.
Well, this has been such a sweet time. Thank you, Josh, for just sharing your heart and just pointing glory to the Lord. I think that's been my big takeaway from what you've talked about today, is just that no matter, I think it goes back to the Colossians verse, that whatever you do it all to the glory of God. And whether you're putting words to a melody or onto a page, like all of that is a form of worship. And I've been the beneficiary of that, like I've said, in our church, but I just really appreciate your heart and sharing it with us today.
Can I give you one more story to close?
Oh, please. Yeah.
Okay. So the bass player for Chris Tomlin's band, his name's Jesse Reeves. Jesse lives in Austin, Texas, and he's written huge songs. How Great Is Our God, Indescribable. He's been on all of those. He did a thing, Carrie, that you recommended, like a songwriter workshop. And it was 4 women just like this that came to his workshop. And they were sitting there and he goes, okay, how many of you written a song? They're like, none of us had written a song before. And he's like, oh goodness, here we go. Okay. They ended up writing the song, I Speak Jesus, the Charity Gale song.
Yeah.
Jesus from the mountains, Jesus in the street, Jesus for my family, and my enemy. And none of them had written before. He said that the royalties alone from that song, with how far and wide it went, changed those 4 women's lives for their future. And 3 of the 4 were single moms that really had given up any hope that their life was going to make any difference or matter. And God was like, yes, it's going to. There you go. And so my encouragement to you is don't ever think for a second that what you are writing or what you're choosing to put your mind or your hand or your pen or your life to, that God will not use that in some way. He might not do it today or tomorrow, but one day he will. And I promise you, I've seen it countless times. And okay, one more story. Sorry, one more. I prayed with my wife right before we released my last album that was like back 5 years ago or something. I said, Lord, if just one person could listen to this album and be changed and be blessed by it, it would really encourage me. The next morning, I got an email from the person that should hate me the most on planet Earth. This is a guy a long time ago. Him and I just didn't do well. And he's got every reason to not like me. And he reached out to me and he said, hey, I just listened to this song that you released last night on Spotify. It popped up in my playlist and your name came up and I found your email through the church's website. And I just wanted to write you and say, I'm really encouraged and blessed by your songs. And I'm sitting on the couch having my coffee the morning that the album comes out. And I'm like, hey, honey, isn't it funny how I prayed last night with you that the Lord would just do it with one person and the person he chose would be the person that I would be like, never. That's never going to happen. So don't doubt what God can and will do through your words. They matter. Your life matters. What you put your life to matters. And I think he'll bless that. So be encouraged. And thanks for spending an hour with me and Cara on the call today.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate your heart.
Thank you.